Okay, guys. Well, welcome to Running for Renewal. So I'm going to explain a little bit about who we are, and then I'll go through the meeting guide and give you guys an idea of what this is about. So understanding who we are and our mission. So Running for Renewal is a recovery community dedicated to helping individuals and families impacted by all forms of addiction and mental health challenges. Our mission is to help every person build a life worth protecting, one rooted in faith, fitness, fellowship, service, and lasting recovery. We exist to work in partnership with the 12-step recovery community, including Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step fellowships, as well as Celebrate Recovery, treatment centers, counseling professionals, and other recovery organizations. So our mission is to complement and strengthen their work, never to replace it. I believe very much in the 12 steps, and they provided some of the most effective paths of achieving and maintaining sobriety for me. We strongly encourage every participant to remain actively involved in a home recovery program. So our mission begins where sobriety begins by answering the question, now that I'm in recovery, what's next? So working in tandem with the recovery community, we help people strengthen the areas of life that sustain long-term recovery through our 4 pillars: faith, fitness, fellowship, and service. Together, these pillars help individuals build a life so meaningful that they want to protect the sobriety they've worked so hard to achieve. Each week we gather to encourage one another through honest discussion, shared experience, accountability, and authentic community. Our goal is to restore hope, renew purpose, and remind every person that sobriety is not the finish line. It is the starting line of the life God intended them to live. Praise God, because I'm there. I'm living it. All right, so recovery is not the finish line. It's the starting line, again, is the life that God intended you to live. So my name's Anthony, and I have the privilege of serving as tonight's facilitator. So thank you so much for making the decision to be here, guys. Thank you. If this is your first meeting, welcome. Your presence matters. Of course, it's everyone's first meeting. So recovery is built one decision at a time, and choosing to show up is often the first victory of the day. Running for Renewal exists to complement, as I mentioned, not to replace the work of recovery fellowships. We believe that lasting recovery involves restoration of the whole person: mind, body, spirit, relationship, and purpose. We encourage participation in the 12-step program and respect the 12 traditions. Many of us have experienced freedom through these principles, and our desire is to provide an environment where recovery continues to grow through faith, accountability, service, and healthy living. Our mission is simple: to help people build a life of spiritual growth, purpose, and healthy movement that sustains recovery. So before we begin, I would like to observe a minute of silence for those still struggling. And I'd like to read the Serenity Prayer. If you guys don't know it, it's over here. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So recovery is built through consistency, not perfection. Meeting guidelines. So the meeting is an open forum. Everyone is welcome. People in recovery, family members, friends, supporters, anyone seeking hope. And we ask everyone to help create an environment of dignity and respect. Please silence your phones. Allow one person to speak at a time. Avoid interrupting others. Share honestly from your own experience. Listen without judgment. And everything shared here should remain confidential unless someone expresses an immediate risk of harm to themselves or another person. So if you're struggling tonight, please tell us. You do not have to carry that burden alone. We're honored you're here. You're under no obligation to speak. We simply ask that you keep coming back. Recovery is built through consistency, not perfection. And after the meeting, I'd love an opportunity to talk to you guys a little bit more, which I haven't had the opportunity to talk to you much, Eric. So our philosophy at Running for Renewal, we believe every person has a measurable worth. No one is defined by addiction. No one is defined by mental illness. No one is beyond redemption. We believe God restores broken lives. We believe healing is possible. We believe honesty defeats shame. We believe discipline creates freedom. We believe serving others strengthens our own recovery. And we believe every physical challenge prepares us to help someone else reach theirs. Sobriety is not the finish line. It is the starting line of a new life. So one of the defining characteristics of Running for Renewal is our commitment to physical movement as part of recovery. But remember, and important, Exercise is not a substitute for faith. It is not a substitute for counseling. It is not a substitute for the 12 steps. Rather, it is one of the tools God has given us to restore the body and strengthen the mind. Many people spend years damaging their bodies through addiction while believing that they are incapable of change. Athletic achievement changes that belief. Every walk completed, every workout finished, every mile run, every weight lifted, every race crossed becomes evidence that transformation is possible. Movement develops discipline. Discipline develops confidence. Confidence creates hope, and hope sustains recovery. Whether your goal is walking around the block or completing an Ironman, every healthy step is a victory. The 4 absolutes of staying sober. Many of the spiritual principles that influence early recovery movements emphasize 4 daily standards for personal growth. As we examine our own lives, we encourage everyone to ask, am I being absolutely honest with myself? Not merely just avoiding lies, but refusing to hide myself or others, from myself or others. Am I pursuing purity? Are my thoughts, motives, and actions moving me closer to the person God created me to become? 3, am I practicing unselfishness? Recovery flourishes when we shift our focus from ourselves towards serving others. And am I living with love? Can I extend grace, compassion, forgiveness, and respect even when it is difficult? None of us live these lives perfectly. They are not measures of worth. They are guideposts for growth. So here are the 6 daily practices for lasting recovery. Recovery requires intentional action. Lasting transformation doesn't happen by accident. It is built through daily choices. We encourage every participant to practice these 6 habits each day. The first one is surrender and listen. Begin every day by surrendering your life and will to God. Spend time in prayer, scripture, quiet reflection, meditation, or listening for His direction and trusting Him to guide your steps. Number 2, move your body. Honor your Creator by caring for the body He has given you. Whether you walk, run, lift, weights, stretch, ride a bike, or simply take first steps toward better health. Physical movement develops discipline, builds confidence, and reminds us that transformation is possible one step at a time. Evaluate your direction. Ask yourself, am I living with honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love? And are today's choices moving me closer to God and the person He's created me to become? Number 4, make things right. When you cause harm, take responsibility quickly. Seek forgiveness. Extend grace. Do not allow resentment, pride, or bitterness to take root. Number 5, share your experience. Encourage someone else. Tell your story. Offer hope. Healing grows stronger when it is shared, and your testimony may become someone else's turning point. Number 6, most importantly to me, serve others. Look for one opportunity each day to love, encourage, or serve another person. Recovery flourishes when we shift our focus from ourselves to the needs of others, reflecting Christ through our actions. Tell your story, offer hope, sponsor or mentor others. So weekly sharing. So we ask everyone to keep their share approximately 3 minutes. The timer isn't meant to rush anyone or diminish your story. We can go a little longer if necessary today, but it's simply a way of making sure many people have the opportunity to participate. When you hear the timer, please begin wrapping up your thoughts. So as you share, be honest, speak from your own experience, allow everyone the opportunity to participate. And our goal is not to fix one another. Our goal is to encourage one another. So today, I've got the topics here. I thought that a good topic would be surrender. That's been a big one for me. That's probably been my biggest hurdle. I know that Evan can tell you that for sure. So with surrender, if you're in recovery and comfortable sharing, so this is going to be for 2 people. People that are in recovery or trying to get healed. The other one is for family members of people that are addicts. So the first one, if you're in recovery and comfortable sharing, how did addiction or mental health challenges affect your willingness to surrender control? Number 2, what changed during your recovery that shaped your understanding to surrender? And the third one is, how does surrender influence your life today, and what hope would you offer someone still struggling? Okay, if I can, I'm going to share my story. So essentially, and I shared with you guys, I grew up in a violent home, and there was a lot of damage done to me physically, and I lived every day to survive. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to get through some of the days. My dad was an aggressively mean, violent drunk, but I will tell you, my mom probably did more emotional damage to me than my dad did physical damage to me. So love with her was conditional. It was tough growing up. I mean, it was I just felt like when I was growing up, I learned how to survive very quickly, and I learned how to take care of myself. And I was strong for a while. I ended up leaving home at 16. I got married about 10 years later, but I ended up thriving when I was living. And I think I did that because I put all my focus, I had addictive habits that I couldn't give up. And so I would just try to overcome those by doing something else, by keeping myself busy, by becoming a workaholic, by working out. And, we'll tell you that things never really got better for me. At the end of the day, I never laid my head on my pillow and just said, that was a good day and I feel fulfilled. Like I always felt like even doing as much as I was doing and getting promoted and working in the restaurant business and becoming a general manager by 27 years old, it was really young. I was always seeking more. It was never enough for me. Like I was always trying to satisfy or quell that insecurity that I had in my life. And I continued on that track for a while. I ended up getting married during that time, and I married someone that was exactly like my mother, very self-centered, narcissistic. Unfortunately, my first wife, she came from a household of abuse and addiction, so it was a difficult marriage because she and I would lock horns a lot. During that time, there were times when I would come home and I would really just drink a couple shots of Jack before I even came home. I had it in my car. I was like, I just can't deal with this woman. We ended up separating after about 4 years, but we ended up having 2 kids. And, I was just thinking in my life, I was like, no matter what I tried to do, like everything that I do seems to be a failure. Like deep down inside, I may have looked like I was somebody that was having success and I had a really good job and I was eventually got a job at Brinker International working in corporate. But deep down inside, I was just miserable. I wasn't happy. I was doing everything for myself, and at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. When my wife and I separated, I don't know, I had a lot of bitterness and resentment, and I was just like, does every person in my life, do they just want to wreck me? Like, does no one really care about me? Like, I really thought that. I was like, you know what? I just don't feel loved. I don't feel loved, and every time I try to do something, it's always to try to make myself feel better or important, and it never worked out. I ended up going into my first real depression at that point, and fell into about a 2 to 3 year alcohol and drug addicted state. I stayed that way till about 1999. That's a long time ago, and I was just like, I ended up getting arrested because I got into a fight. And when I got out of jail, I was like, something's got to change. Like, I got to do something different. Like, this is not working for me. I found an AA group on Greenville Avenue in Dallas, and walked through the doors of an AA group for like the very first time. I'd never been, right? And I hear all these people talking, and I got a sponsor at the time. But, I didn't have a problem with step 1, but I had a real problem with step 2 and 3 because I grew up in a godless home. So everything that you did was on your own, and you tried to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You hear all the sayings like, come on, get yourself up, dust yourself off, and move on. I was strong and to a certain point, and, I just, that's how I lived my life. And I just could not give up control. That was the hardest part for me because I couldn't see surrendering my life over to something that I couldn't see, feel, touch, literally, when I was like, where is God? Like, where has he been my entire life? Like, why am I going to surrender when I blamed him? This is part of the mess that he got me in, right? And I'm like, what do I do? So I ignored step 2 and 3. I worked through the rest of the steps. And
What are step 2 and 3?
Step 2 and 3 came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And 3, made a decision to turn our will and lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So really 2 and 3 are about surrender. It's about giving up control, right? And I couldn't do that. I was white knuckling my way through life. So I will tell you this, that I self-willed my way sober for about 3.5 years. And I'm going to tell you that, I thought I got it. I thought I had it down. And it was probably, that was around the time that I met my wife now. She saw this guy that was working at a regional accounting firm. Things were good. I had a nice car, a great apartment. Things were good. I looked good on the outside, but I had all of this pain that I had not healed from, really a lot, because when I turned my will and life over to the care of God as I understood him, I didn't know that he could take away that pain. I didn't know that he could take away not feeling like I was enough. So I just kind of I presented myself well, kind of got my act together a little bit. And by the time I met my wife, I'd started drinking again, but I was cool. Like, I'm only gonna have like one tonight, and I'm good to go. And I sustained that for about 3 or 4 years until things got hard. And I got married in 2003. By 2007, the cracks were starting to show, right? And I'm like, there were things that were out of my control that I could not manage. One was my ex-wife called me, and we never really talked that much. But when she did call me, I was like, hey, it's got to be something serious. And she was like, hey, listen, I've got cancer. And I'm like, well, you're going to beat it. Like, your family doesn't have cancer. Like, you're going to be okay, right? And she was like, I don't know, Anthony. She was like, it's stage 4. They're giving me like 4 months to live. And I said, Kim, I'm so sorry. Like, that's awful. And, during that time I had 2 brand new babies. I had a baby and I had a 2-year-old, right? And so my daughters were 15 and 13. And when Kim finally died, she died in 3 months, right? And when she died, I just, what's that? My first wife.
Okay.
My first wife, yeah. My first wife died. It really, I started spinning out of control because I was like, I could have done much better, but I don't know, the relationship between me and the girls was really fractured, and she really created that fracture. And she was like, look, the girls they're like, they don't want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But after she died, I was trying to do what I could to reach out to them and try to be closer to them, but it didn't work. They hated me. So, but I don't blame them, because when I left my first wife, I abandoned them. I left them because I couldn't handle it and I didn't know what to do. So that's when I ended up going into that first binge, that first deep depression. And so I tried to develop a relationship with them and couldn't do it. And so I started having all this resentment. And my poor wife, who's a great, wonderful person, she just didn't know how to handle me. Like, everything was just dark for me, and I'd had a bad attitude, and I wasn't coming home happy. And, I just fell into this dark, deep depression. And I felt guilty because the girls were addicts. They weren't doing well, and they were moving from house to house. And one of my daughters had cut herself and tried to commit suicide, and the other one was just completely out of control. And it was my fault, right? And I got into a deep depression, and by 2008, I was fully involved. Man, I was a drunk, and it was 4 to 5 times a week, and I'm talking drinking and using 4 to 5 times a week, and I was a functional addict. If you don't know what that is, it's someone who continues to use, and they'll even go to work the next day, but they'll time it, right? I'll be like, all right, if I stop drinking and using at 12, like, I should be able to get enough sleep, get up at 6:30, right? Could make the kids breakfast. Like, that was my life. I was hungover 80% of the time. And so, that went on, for a little while until 2012 came. And unfortunately, 2012, and Evan's heard the story a million times, I was just on a drunken binge, and I set our house on fire and burned it to the ground. And it was an accident. I was just pissed off at the grill. And in the hotel that night, I was just like, you know what? I'm the reason. Like I wanted to kill myself. Like, I saw it clearly. Like, I was on my knees, right? And when addicts get to a certain point, they may have a rock bottom moment, but believe me, if you have one and you don't fix things, you're going to have another rock bottom moment that's even lower than the one that you had before. And so I had a rock bottom moment, and I just said, this is all my fault. It's because of me and my selfishness. And my wife even told me, she's like, you're selfish, and you only care about yourself. And so it was around 2014, I had been broken enough that I was like, the hell with this, I'm done. And I looked up some groups online, and I found Cocaine Anonymous, which is a fourth dimension group. And I walked through the doors in 2014. It took me a while. It took me a while to still go through step 2 and 3. Even my sponsor at the time was like, man, you've got to surrender. I finally did. It was 2015, and I just said, okay, I'm going to do that. But it was hard for me. There were times when I would retain control, right? And I would go back to relapsing. And I really didn't get clean till 2017. So it was a couple of years. Probably had, quite a few relapses. I'd stay clean for 3 months, and then I'd go off the edge and stay clean 4 months, and I'd drop off again. By 2017, I got clean and was living a good life, and I had surrendered my will and life over to God as I understood Him. And I started having these emotional burdens lifted off of me. And I started working H&Is, which H&Is are visiting hospitals and institutions, which I've probably done on and off for about 9 years. I'm involved with Synacor now. We do H&I over there, but really, it's about helping others. It's about giving them hope and about helping them see the message of what you're doing, right? And telling them your faults. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say, look, I didn't get it the first time. I didn't get it the second time. And it took 2 years for me to get through this. I will tell you that sometimes I'm in a room full of people in Synacor, and Irving's huge, 60 to 80 people there sometimes. And I see people like nodding their heads like, yeah, I get it. Like, I was there. And I always tell them, when I go to the groups, I go in there really hopeful and I tell them my story. and I tell them this quote from Walt Whitman that I love so much. And it's like, and I said, look, you're at a point and you're down and out. And I know that this is a bad place to be, but there's a Walt Whitman quote that's really good. It says, there will come a point in time in your life when you think everything is finished. That will be the beginning. I love that quote. But, I say it's over 2017 and then 2019. 2017, my daughter, Amanda, my oldest, moved to Dallas and started establishing a relationship. Taylor, my youngest, still didn't want to have anything to do with me. She still called me by my first name. But Amanda had acquiesced, and she was like, I'm going to have a relationship with you, and I want to know you again. And the first thing she said when she saw me is like, I forgive you. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's a 30-pound weight off my neck, right? And we started to build a relationship, and it was going well. Things were good, and I was really happy. But on July the 21st, she was killed on George Bush, and Preston, I told you that. Devastated me. I was pissed off. As anyone but me, angry at God, like I came all this way, and you do this. Like, I was pissed. I was like, how could you do this? And even now, I don't think it's fair, but I will tell you this, that he didn't do anything to put her in that situation. She put herself in that situation. Unfortunately, my daughter was 3 times the legal limit. So she was drunk. She had wrecked her car the week before. It was leaking radiator fluid, and her car broke down. That's why she ended up stranded. And so when she got hit, she broke down. She stepped out of her car and she got hit. It was horrible. Had I not had this program, had I not had the 4D program, the 12-step program, there's no way I would have made it. No way. I was pissed off. The DPS came to my house at about 3 o'clock and 3 in the morning. And by 5 o'clock, I was already praying on my knees. Lord, you got to get me out of this. I can't handle the burden of this. It's going to be really difficult. And so, I reached out to a buddy, and we went and worked out that morning. But I've been working out since about 2016. And so I was like, hey, go work out with me. It was like, I really need to talk to you. He was like, okay, I'll be there in like 15 minutes. So we talked. And he helped sustain my sobriety, and I was really grateful for that. It was probably about a couple of weeks after Amanda had died. He was like, hey, listen, man, I see you, dude. You're in a dark place. He was like, I'm going to tell you. He was like, why don't you do an Ironman with me? And I was like, yeah. And I told you guys, it's a terrible idea, right? I couldn't swim or whatever. But yeah, he was like, look, you don't have to do one. Just work out with me. Like, it's 6 times a week. We're up early in the morning. He said, if I were you, I wouldn't even listen to music. Just spend time with God. Just do everything you can. Dedicate the day to God and just spend time with him and just listen to what he has for you. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. It was about 3 months later. He was like, I think you're going to be able to do it. Like, you're a pretty good swimmer and you're a great biker, and your running's okay, but I think you can get better. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And so I stuck with it, and crossed my first Ironman on October the 9th, 2021. I was really grateful for that, but it wasn't because of anything that I had done. It was because I really surrendered my power, and I just followed God's will. And before I got up, look, life has not been easy since 2019. It's been really difficult, and I've had some challenges, but from what I've understood, and I read scripture a lot, it's like I'm under God's care, and so he's molding me into who I need to be, and he's having me face the difficult things. And so part of this program, I like Marcus Aurelius a lot, and I like Meditations, the book, but one of his quotes that I love very much is that the obstacle is the way, and the impediment to action advances action. So what's standing in your way is the way. So I wrote a book and published it last year. It's doing really well. I'm really grateful, and I've had the opportunity to do some speaking engagements, and I've got some others booked. But the book went. It was actually it's at Barnes and Noble now, which I'm really shocked at. And we did a book tour last week. But all of this is a result because I was following what God wanted me to do. So in this program, it's really about, in terms of surrender. I wouldn't be where I am if I had not given up control. Instead of trying to, white knuckle and gnash my teeth through the end of the day and worry about tomorrow, I found myself in a situation where I don't worry about tomorrow. I just ask for guidance today. God, can you please guide me and show me what I need to do? And I put my effort in. I put my full effort into that. But when I start, and believe me, I'm human. I mean, there will be points where things aren't going my way. And the last 3 months have been like that. But every time I see something that is a real challenge, I'm like, I don't go, God, why? I don't say that. I just go, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this? And I get the guidance that I need. So he's molding me into something different. So that this program was birthed from that book. And so I did my own, after doing the 12-step program, I kind of did my own, I developed my own program for myself. And I was like, what's the only thing that's going to help you? And it was, for me, the 4 pillars of this are really emotional health and being involved in community, athleticism, and spirituality. And if I've got those cornerstones, as my foundation, I feel that I have not had an opportunity. The opportunities to relapse will be there, and it isn't about, hey, I need the willpower to be able to give this up. It isn't about that. It's about this heart thing. It's about surrendering your heart and saying, God, what do you want from me today? Like, I don't want to handle this today, because, and even men have the most difficulty, because the majority of the groups, they're men. 70 to 80% are men, and men are very stubborn. They're like, I want to do this on my own. I'm tough. Like, I can get this done myself. I found that when I partner with God, that anything is possible. And anyway, that's my story. So anyway,
well delivered.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a lot to digest, but it was particularly well.
Yeah, and if you guys want to speak, please take time to do so and kind of share your story. So really,
So a lot of this program that you're reading from right now, you developed?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I wish I had taken notes. I wanted the
Couldn't write fast
pillars.
enough.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I didn't really tell him, like, he didn't know what he was coming into. I just said, let's find out what he's all about. I wanted you to share, because, it's better from you.
Yeah.
I can cut it.
Yeah, tell me your story,
I
Eric,
agree
if you don't mind.
With your, with where you are, I can see that's where I am with that 2 and 3. It's like, if I were, I'm always like just rely on myself. Like, if I'm trying to get through certain things, and wait a minute, all I had to do is just open myself with God. And there's some times where I just knew it was like the thing to do, and I just didn't do it.
Right.
And then I look back and go, I can almost sense that it was just like, okay, well, I'll be here for you next time. It was like right there, and it was like I just didn't do it when I needed to do it.
Yeah.
It's stubbornness,
Yeah, it is. And a lot of the time, for me, I have to start my morning by, even before I put my feet on the ground, I'm like, Lord, show me my next step. Show me what I need to do. And I'm a proven case of when I let my self-will run my life, it runs right, and my life turns to hell very quickly, because I serve myself, right? And a lot of that not letting go is like, what about me? What about serving my needs? What about, and what's funny is that when I serve others and I do things for the community, right? Or I pay it forward, as they say, a lot of that emotional heavy lifting, that burden disappears. It's a weird thing. There's no formula to it. Like, and by the way, I didn't figure out some secret code. Like, hey man, let me give you guys the code, or I figured out, I cracked the code. I didn't do that. And here's the good news about the program. It's a surrender. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is say, Lord, I just want your will in my life. And here's the thing. The Lord created the universe, the creator, right? Created everything. Everything works in such a complex way we're not even capable of understanding. And for me, I'm like, You know, and I think about it this way. This is the analogy. You know, when you get on a plane, the first thing you think about, you're like, I really need to be flying this plane like that. I don't know. I'm not sure about that guy, right? Like you trust the pilot, right? You listen to music, you read your book. Imagine God has 1 billion times the ability to manage your life, right? And then a pilot flying a plane properly.
Yeah.
You know, if I trust the pilot, why can't I trust God with my life?
Great analogy.
Yeah.
I think it's common though, even the Paul in the Bible, he struggled with that.
Very much so.
I don't do what I'm supposed to do, and I do what I'm not supposed to. You know, all that struggle. I think it's common to the Christian walk.
Chief sinner, but he's even at one point called himself chief of sinners, or something.
And it's cyclical, right?
Yeah.
It's like then you learn, you relearn. You've been here before. Why'd you do that?